In 1513, while imprisoned in the dungeons of Florence, Niccolò Machiavelli discovered something that would change how power works forever. What he revealed was a psychological blueprint that turns ordinary people into devoted followers. Kings have used this knowledge to command armies, lovers have wielded it to capture hearts, and master manipulators have employed it to bend reality itself. They won't even know why they're thinking about you, but they will constantly. Their mind infected, their choices bent, their emotions yours command. Machiavelli never used the word obsession, but he described it perfectly. By the end of this video, you'll understand the exact psychological mechanism that makes someone unable to get you out of their head, and you'll learn how to apply this ethically in your life. So kindly go ahead and subscribe to this channel. Men are driven by two forces, Machiavelli wrote, love and fear. But there's something deeper, something more primal. Obsession. Obsession isn't just about attraction. It's about rewiring someone's brain. When someone is obsessed with you, they don't just like you. They rearrange their entire life around you. They wake up thinking about you. They change how they speak, how they dress, how they act because of you. Most people believe obsession comes from giving too much, showering someone with attention, gifts, constant validation. They couldn't be more wrong. Machiavelli's years studying the great rulers of history revealed something peculiar. The most powerful figures weren't the ones who gave the most, but the ones who withheld the most strategically. Caesar didn't win loyalty by being generous to everyone. He won it by being unpredictably generous to a chosen few. Cleopatra didn't seduce powerful men by being available. She seduced them by being magnificently elusive. Machiavelli realized that human psychology operates on a simple but devastating principle. We don't obsess over what we possess. We obsess over what we can't predict. The moment someone becomes certain of your feelings, your availability, your reactions, that's the moment you lose all power over them. But when you become an unsolved puzzle, when every interaction leaves them with more questions than answers, something primal awakens in their brain. They begin to hunt you without even realizing their prey. But understanding the principle is only the beginning. Machiavelli identified 3 specific techniques that, when combined, create what he called emotional starvation, a psychological state where someone becomes mentally dependent on your presence. The first technique seems almost cruel in its simplicity, yet it's the foundation upon which all obsession is built. It's called strategic withdrawal, and it works because it exploits the brain's most primitive wiring. When someone begins to feel comfortable around you, when they start to predict your responses, when they believe they have you figured out, that's precisely when you must disappear. Not permanently, not dramatically, but just enough to create what neuroscientists now call intermittent reinforcement. You become like a slot machine in their mind, sometimes paying out with your attention, sometimes going cold. And just like gamblers, they become addicted to pulling the lever. The second technique Machiavelli discovered is what he termed strategic reflection, but it's far more sophisticated than simple mirroring. Most people think mirroring means copying someone's body language or repeating their words. That's amateur psychology. True strategic reflection means becoming a distorted mirror of their deepest desires and fears. You show them fragments of what they crave, ambition, vulnerability, intensity, but never the complete picture. When they want to feel powerful, you reveal a glimpse of your own ruthless vision, then immediately cover it with casual indifference. When they crave emotional connection, you offer a moment of raw honesty, then retreat behind humor or distraction. You become the person they almost understand, the puzzle they're always one piece away from solving. This creates what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. Their brain becomes obsessed with reconciling the contradictions you present. They can't categorize you, can't predict you, can't file you away in their mental database of people I figured out. The third and most dangerous technique is what Machiavelli called wound recognition. Every person carries invisible scars, abandonment, rejection, the fear of not being enough. Machiavelli understood that the deepest obsessions don't come from pleasure. They come from the promise of healing ancient pain. You don't create these wounds, but you position yourself as the only person who truly sees them. You listen without trying to fix. You acknowledge without judgment. You recognize the parts of them they desperately try to hide. Slowly, carefully, you become associated not just with comfort, but with relief from their deepest fears. When someone believes that being around you doesn't just feel good, it feels like healing. They don't just enjoy your company. They become psychologically dependent on it. The thought of losing you becomes unbearable because it means returning to the pain they felt before you understood them. But here's where Machiavelli's genius becomes truly diabolical. Most people think the goal is to make someone obsess over you, your personality, your charm, your presence. That's not what creates lasting obsession. The real secret, the one that even Machiavelli's closest advisors never fully grasped, is that true obsession isn't about making someone addicted to who you are. It's about making them addicted to who they become when you're around. This is a paradox that drives kings to madness and lovers to destruction. You don't make them obsess over you. You make them obsess over themselves. Think about it. When someone is truly obsessed, what consumes their thoughts? It's not just your face or your voice. It's the replay of every interaction, analyzing what they said, what they did, wondering if they impressed you, if they disappointed you, if they're worthy of your attention. They become addicted to the version of themselves that exists in your presence. You make them feel more powerful, more understood, more desired than they've ever felt before. And then, this is crucial, you strategically withdraw that reflection. Suddenly, they're not just missing you. They're missing the person they were when you were there. They're chasing a ghost of their own identity. Machiavelli discovered this by observing what happened when powerful allies turned against him. It wasn't his absence that tormented them. It was the absence of the status, the significance, the sense of being special that his attention had provided. They didn't just lose an advisor. They lost a mirror that had shown them their most magnificent self. This is why obsession can turn to hatred so quickly, why the most devoted followers can become the most vicious enemies. They're not angry at you for leaving. They're angry at themselves for becoming dependent on your validation to feel whole. Now that you understand the psychological mechanics, let's examine how this plays out in the modern world. The most magnetic people you know, the ones who seem to effortlessly command attention and loyalty, are unknowingly using these principles. They've learned to become what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement schedules in human form. They're not necessarily kinder or more attractive than others. They're simply more unpredictable. Consider the person in your life who has this effect on others. Notice how they never give their full attention, never reveal their complete thoughts, never make themselves entirely available. When they do engage, it's with such intensity and focus that the recipient feels chosen, special, seen in a way that others can't provide. But then comes a withdrawal, not cruel, not obvious, just less. The response is always delayed. The enthusiasm slightly dimmed, the warmth just a degree cooler. This isn't calculated manipulation. It's intuitive understanding of human psychology. The most powerful application of Machiavelli's principle isn't in romantic relationships. It's in leadership, in influence, in the ability to inspire unwavering loyalty. Great leaders don't just give orders. They create followers who are addicted to earning their approval. They become the standard by which their people measure their own worth. Think of the most influential figures in history, the ones who inspired both fanatical devotion and equally intense hatred. They didn't just lead. They became the mirror through which their followers saw their best and worst selves. This is why Machiavelli's technique is so dangerous. It doesn't just create temporary attraction or fleeting interest. It rewires how people think about themselves. When you master strategic withdrawal, strategic reflection, and wound recognition, you don't just gain someone's attention. You become part of their internal narrative. They start making decisions based on what they imagine you would think, choosing paths that would earn your approval, avoiding actions that might disappoint you. You become the voice in their head, the standard in their heart, the ghost that haunts their choices. But here's the final twist that makes this so insidious. The people who become obsessed with you will never fully understand why. They'll rationalize their behavior, create elaborate explanations for their devotion, convince themselves that their feelings are based on your exceptional qualities. They'll never recognize that they're not in love with you. They're in love with who they are when you're watching. This is the ultimate expression of power. Control so complete that the controlled never realize they're being controlled. They think they're choosing you, when in reality, you've made them choose an idealized version of themselves that only exists in your presence. Now you understand what Machiavelli discovered in that prison cell, the psychological blueprint that has shaped empires and destroyed souls. But with this knowledge comes a responsibility that even the master of political manipulation couldn't have foreseen. In our hyper-connected age, these techniques have become more powerful and more dangerous than ever before. Social media has turned everyone into a potential Machiavelli, crafting personas designed to trigger exactly the psychological responses we've discussed. The strategic withdrawal happens through delayed responses and calculated silence. Strategic reflection occurs through carefully curated content that shows fragments of personality. Wound recognition plays out in the comment sections where people reveal their deepest insecurities, hoping for validation from someone who seems to understand. The question isn't whether these techniques work. Centuries of history have proven their effectiveness. The question is what kind of person you become when you wield them. Machiavelli himself wrestled with this paradox throughout his life. He understood that power corrupts not just through its exercise, but through the very knowledge of how to exercise it. When you know exactly how to make someone psychologically dependent on you, when you can predict and manipulate their emotional responses, you face a choice that will define not just your relationships, but your character. Consider the people in your life who have used these techniques on you, whether consciously or not. The boss who keeps you guessing about your performance, alternating between praise and criticism just enough to keep you desperately seeking their approval. The friend who seems to understand your deepest fears but only offers comfort sporadically, leaving you constantly wondering where you stand. The romantic partner who makes you feel incredible when they're present but somehow diminished when they're not. Now that you recognize the pattern, you can see the puppet strings that once controlled your emotions. But here's what separates wisdom from mere manipulation: the choice to use this knowledge for connection rather than control. The same techniques that can create obsession can also create genuine intimacy and influence. Strategic withdrawal doesn't have to be about withholding affection. It can be about maintaining healthy boundaries and respecting both your own and others' autonomy. Strategic reflection doesn't have to be about manipulation. It can be about truly seeing and appreciating the complexity in others. Wound recognition doesn't have to be about creating dependency. It can be about offering genuine compassion and understanding. The most profound realization is that when you understand these psychological principles, you no longer need to use them manipulatively. Real confidence comes from knowing you could influence someone's emotions, but choosing not to exploit that power. The people who are most magnetic, most genuinely influential, most deeply respected, are those who have learned to inspire rather than control, to elevate rather than create dependency. Machiavelli's final lesson wasn't written in any of his texts. It was lived in the consequences of his philosophy. He gained the power to influence princes and kingdoms, but he lost the ability to trust in genuine human connection. When you know exactly how emotional manipulation works, every relationship becomes suspect. Is this person truly loyal, or are they simply responding to psychological triggers? Are your own feelings authentic, Or are you being skillfully played by someone who understands these same principles? This is the ultimate paradox of Machiavelli's discovery. The more you understand about psychological influence, the more you realize that the most powerful choice is often not to use it. True strength lies not in making others dependent on you, but in helping them become more independent. Real influence comes not from creating obsession, but from inspiring genuine admiration and respect. The knowledge you now possess is dangerous because it works, but your character will be defined by what you choose to do with it. Will you use it to create invisible prisons of psychological dependency? Or will you use it to recognize when others are trying to manipulate you, to build healthy relationships based on mutual respect, and to wield influence in service of something greater than your own ego? Machiavelli spent his final years in exile, brilliant but alone, surrounded by people who feared his understanding of human nature more than they respected it. Don't make his mistake. The greatest victory isn't in making others obsessed with you. It's in becoming someone worthy of genuine love and respect. Remember this. Anyone can learn to manipulate, but only the truly powerful choose restraint. The real secret isn't how to make someone addicted to you. It's how to inspire them to become addicted to their own potential. That's the kind of influence that changes the world, that builds rather than destroys, that elevates rather than diminishes. Now that you know the truth, the choice is yours. Use it wisely. If you enjoyed this video and you're drawn to ideas like this, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This channel is built for minds like yours. Don't forget to like this video, and if this message hits you somewhere deep, then drop a comment below. I read and reply to every comment.